James Garner's life began far from Hollywood glamour, rooted instead in the dust and determination of Norman, Oklahoma. Born on April 7, 1928, during the Great Depression, he grew up surrounded by economic hardship and emotional upheaval. His mother's death when he was just 5 years old left a permanent mark, while his father struggled to keep the family stable. Garner spent much of his youth moving between relatives, learning early how to adapt, observe, and endure. These formative years shaped the quiet strength audiences would later sense on screen. He learned responsibility young, taking odd jobs and never expecting life to be easy. Unlike many stars who chased fame, Garner carried himself like someone who had already survived worse. That background gave him a rare authenticity. His humility, resilience, and empathy weren't carefully constructed traits. They were survival skills learned long before cameras ever rolled. War, service, and the making of character. Before acting ever entered his life, James Garner served his country with uncommon courage. Leaving school at 16, he joined the Merchant Marine and later enlisted in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Combat left him with lasting physical injuries and emotional scars, earning him 2 Purple Hearts for wounds sustained in battle. Yet Garner never glorified war. Instead, he spoke of it with restraint and honesty, recognizing both the bravery it demanded and the cost it imposed. The discipline he learned as a soldier carried into his civilian life, shaping his professionalism and moral compass. He understood leadership, accountability, and restraint, qualities that later defined many of his most memorable roles. War didn't make him loud or boastful. It made him thoughtful. That quiet gravity distinguished him from other leading men and gave his performances an undercurrent of lived experience that audiences instinctively trusted. An accidental path to stardom. James Garner never planned on becoming an actor. After returning from military service, he moved to Los Angeles simply to work, taking modeling jobs and helping friends where he could. Fate intervened when a talent agent noticed his natural presence. Not flashy, but steady and compelling. Garner had no formal acting training, which worked in his favor. He learned by doing, relying on instinct rather than theatrical excess. His big break came in 1957 with the television series Maverick, where he redefined the Western hero. His Brett Maverick was clever, reluctant to fight, and refreshingly human. Audiences responded immediately. Garner's charm wasn't manufactured, it felt lived in. He didn't dominate scenes through force, but through timing and intelligence. Almost overnight, he became a household name, yet he remained wary of fame, treating acting as a job rather than a pedestal. A career built on versatility and integrity. Throughout the 1960s, Garner proved he was far more than a television star. He moved effortlessly between genres, starring in romantic comedies, action films, and serious dramas. In The Great Escape, he matched the intensity of Steve McQueen, while in films opposite Doris Day, he displayed warmth and comedic ease. What set Garner apart was consistency. He didn't chase trends or reinvent himself artificially. Directors and co-stars trusted him because he showed up prepared, respectful, and reliable. He avoided Hollywood excess and ego, choosing instead to protect his independence and creative freedom. Garner also became known for standing up to studios when contracts became unfair, even at personal cost. That willingness to push back reflected his values. He wasn't interested in being powerful, only in being honest, both on screen and off. Reinventing television with the Rockford Files. In the 1970s, James Garner reshaped television once again with the Rockford Files. As Jim Rockford, he portrayed a private investigator who relied on wit more than violence, intelligence more than bravado. The character felt real, tired, clever, occasionally unlucky, and deeply human. Garner performed many of his own stunts, enduring injuries that compounded earlier war wounds, yet he rarely complained. His dedication earned him an Emmy and cemented the show's legacy. What audiences loved most was Rockford's vulnerability. He wasn't invincible, and he didn't pretend to be. Garner brought lived experience into the role, grounding it in realism and humor. The show influenced generations of television heroes, proving that strength could be subtle and integrity could be entertaining. It remains one of the clearest reflections of who Garner truly was. A love story that defied Hollywood odds. James Garner's personal life mirrored the steadiness of his professional one. In 1956, he met Lois Clark at a party, and within 16 days, they were married. What sounded impulsive turned into one of Hollywood's longest marriages. Garner often spoke of Lois with humor and reverence, crediting her grounded nature with anchoring his life. Together, they raised 2 daughters, including Lois's child from a previous marriage, whom Garner embraced fully. Their marriage wasn't perfect. They experienced separations and challenges, but it was built on loyalty and respect. Garner never presented marriage as effortless. He saw it as commitment in action. Lois remained largely private, preferring stability over spotlight, and that balance worked. Their bond endured nearly 6 decades, quietly contradicting Hollywood's reputation for fleeting romance. Reflections on Randolph Scott James Garner rarely spoke publicly about other actors, which made his reflections on Randolph Scott especially meaningful. He described Scott as intensely private, disciplined, and deeply misunderstood. Garner admired Scott's professionalism and moral clarity, noting that he commanded respect without raising his voice or seeking attention. Scott's reserve often invited speculation, but Garner dismissed gossip entirely, emphasizing that privacy should never be mistaken for secrecy. What mattered to him was Scott's consistency, his punctuality, respect for crews, and unwavering standards. Garner believed Scott represented an older ideal of masculinity rooted in dignity rather than display. Though Scott wasn't emotionally expressive, Garner saw that as authenticity, not distance. He respected Scott's refusal to perform for public approval. In Garner's view, Scott's legacy wasn't mystery. It was steadfastness, and that quiet strength left a lasting impression on everyone who worked with him. Later years and lasting grace. As James Garner aged, his performances gained depth rather than diminishing. In Murphy's Romance, he delivered a tender, restrained performance that earned him an Academy Award nomination. Decades later, The Notebook introduced him to a new generation where his portrayal of enduring love resonated deeply. Off-screen, Garner continued advocating for actors' rights and fairness within the industry. Health challenges slowed him, but never defined him. Through it all, Lois remained by his side, protecting his privacy and providing constant support. Garner spoke openly about how much he relied on her presence. Fame never replaced family for him. His later years were quieter, filled with reflection rather than nostalgia. He seemed content knowing he had lived honestly, loved deeply, and worked with integrity. A final chapter marked by love. James Garner passed away on July 19, 2014, just weeks before his 58th wedding anniversary. His death marked the end of a remarkable partnership built on trust and endurance. Lois lived several years longer, though those close to her said she never truly recovered from the loss. Their life together had been private, steady, and deeply affectionate. Garner's legacy extends beyond awards or iconic roles. He left behind an example of how to navigate success without losing oneself. He showed that humility could coexist with fame, and that strength didn't require noise. Through his work, his marriage, and his quiet principles, James Garner remains a model of integrity in an industry rarely associated with it. His story endures not because it was dramatic, but because it was real.